going on, you sexy bitches? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. We are talking today about a bunch of different wrestling news, including the upcoming first ever head-to-head matchup this coming Friday between AEW and the WWE main roster. We also got some news about Roman Reigns setting some records, some unfortunate news for AEW in the ratings, and some unfortunate news for New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax tournament, and basically wrestling in general. But before we get to that, I want to remind you guys, this being YouTube, you can help out the channel by clicking that like button. That's all I ask for doing all of this research and finding all of this stuff. Just hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It does help other people know that there are videos here about wrestling topics that they might be interested in, so I thank you very much in advance. And now, let's get on to the news. So, it seems like we've gone from Monday Night Wars to Wednesday Night Wars, and now we're having a Friday Night War. This coming Friday, both AEW and WWE are suffering from preemptions. So SmackDown is going to be on FS1 again. The last time that happened with SmackDown, it didn't turn out too good for their ratings, but they're going to extend SmackDown by a half hour. They're going to have Brock Lesnar on the show, and their half hour that they're extending it by is going to cut into the usual 10 to 11 p.m. time slot of their rival AEW Dynamite. And it'll be commercial free to keep people from flipping channels. So expecting, this is the first time really WWE, well actually no it's not, that's another story, but this is the first time the two rosters, the main roster of AEW and the main roster of WWE, are going to go head to head at the same time on television. Friday's going to be a crazy night, and I think maybe, and this might be an instance where in the long run this actually winds up benefiting both shows, because I think there's going to be a lot of interest, especially among the hardcore wrestling fans, to really experience a Monday Night War. You got to keep this in mind. I'm old school. I started watching wrestling in '85, so I watched everything that led up to the Monday Night Wars, through the Monday Night Wars, and past the Monday Night Wars. There are a lot of people today who are in their 20s and in their 30s who in their adult life never actually experienced, and it just dawned on me the other day, they've never experienced what I did, you know, for 6.5 years on Monday nights, and going back and forth between the USA Network and TNT, and saying, okay, what's going on over on Nitro? Let's go on over on Raw. Now, or the same thing for Thunder and SmackDown in the early days, but this is the first time that this will be able to happen, and it's not NXT against AEW, it's the actual main roster. Actually, SmackDown being WWE's biggest flagship show right now because it's got the larger audience overall. Essentially, you're putting WWE's A show against AEW's B show. So, and given the decrease in ratings for AEW Dynamite, which was like just barely over 500,000 people last week, even with CM Punk on it, and given the fact that SmackDown averages 2 million viewers, even going to FS1, they'll probably get about 1.3, 1.4 million viewers for SmackDown this coming Friday. And AEW, I don't think is going to do that much. I think it obviously the overall rating, SmackDown is going to trounce Rampage. Demographic wise, who knows about that one, but AEW was not out of tricks. So in addition to Tony Khan saying that Raw sucked this week, which it's apparently a lot of people did because the viewership wasn't really good for Raw this week, but that comes and goes here and there. But AEW is also going to counter this by, on YouTube, having a full hour pre-show of Rampage on YouTube, and it's going to feature, for me, Minoru Suzuki versus Bryan Danielson. This is a match I have wanted to see for a very, very long time. I want to see the modern day Bryan Danielson against Murder Grandpa Minoru Suzuki, because there's a lot of similarities with the two of them. Bryan Danielson is almost kind of like, you can see as he's getting older, he's kind of turning into a Western version of Minoru Suzuki himself. So that's going to be a match I can't wait to see, and there's lots of great stuff on the Rampage card, and there's lots of great stuff on the SmackDown card, and we finally get what people have been saying for a long time. Hopefully with the competition, WWE will make its show better. Now time will tell whether or not Friday's episode of SmackDown and the 30-minute overrun, commercial free, is going to be jam-packed. You imagine that they're going to pull out all stops in that 30-minute commercial free break. So I don't know. We're in for some good stuff. This is going to be very interesting to watch and see how it all plays out. But that is what's happening this Friday. It should be amazing. And other good news for WWE, Roman Reigns has recently hit a milestone. He apparently has sold more merchandise than even John Cena at the height of John Cena's popularity. And they're saying that Roman Reigns' merchandise numbers are at that level now, that he is, as a heel, proving to be more profitable and more popular than all the years that they were trying to force him as a next John Cena face. Imagine that. I think it's really cool because I've said for the last 2 years that Roman Reigns, ever since he teamed with Paul Heyman and turned heel and the whole thing with him and as the head of the table and what he's done with the Usos and the way they're just been doing stuff on SmackDown and then on Raw and then on SmackDown and on Raw, and Roman taking out guys like Edge and taking out John Cena, and now he's going after Brock Lesnar and the intrigue with that because of the Paul Heyman history. Roman Reigns is the most interesting thing on WWE TV and has been that way for a while now. He's what we all have been saying he could have been for years and years and years, and now the proof is in the pudding as far as the viewership and how he's a draw, so much of a draw that they're going to move him over to Raw the week following Survivor Series because ticket sales are a little bit low for that show. So they're trying to move him on there to get a boost in ticket sales because they don't have too many of those tricks they can pull out. But they're not the only ones. AEW's been really hampered with this Friday night's tickets for the Rampage show. So they're doing a Heritage Night, which for some reason has Cody Rhodes doing an autograph with you. I don't know. Cody, no. But the kind of shaky wrestling money and attendance news doesn't stop here in the West. Over in the East, New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 tournament, the viewership has not been what it's been in the past, not even close to what it's been in the past. Now, New Japan doesn't release public numbers of what's going on, but you can obviously tell by the amount of begging that Kevin Kelly, I'm not saying that to be dismissive or to be harsh, but he's doing his job. He's supposed to be promoting the shows. But they've put on a couple of G1 nights for free on New Japan World. Kevin Kelly on every G1 video I'm watching is saying, hey, tell your friends to come watch it, which when they're doing that is telling me that they're not getting the viewership on the American broadcast, the English broadcast at least. So I'm getting very concerned about the future of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm very concerned about the fact that even this last week's shows, they're supposed to be doing limited capacity, but again, is it really a limited capacity? If it wasn't limited capacity, would there be a lot of people showing up for these shows? I'm not so sure about that. Now, fortunately, the rates of COVID infections are dropping significantly over in Japan. They're really, really low right now. And hopefully, given that we're 3 months away from a 3-day Wrestle Kingdom, hopefully that means by Wrestle Kingdom, they'll be able to hopefully at least get to 50% capacity allowed at the Tokyo Dome, and the other, I think this is the Cebu Dome that they're having the third night at. I forgot what other dome they're having it at. But hopefully that means that they will be able to get back to having full crowds. The crowds will be able to vocalize. It's been very hard for a year and a half now to watch New Japan shows because even though the Japanese audience is not really known for making a lot of audible noises, there is something about that New Japan audience and about a Japanese wrestling audience and the women crying out for the different wrestlers and the crowds applauding and stomping and even though they can do that now, but the gasping and the cheering and the booing, that is all kind of missing. That is all element, much like the same way it is over here in the States and in Europe, the way the crowds are. European crowds are different from American crowds. American crowds are different from Japanese crowds. Japanese crowds are different from Mexico crowds. But they're all crowds that make noises that are distinct to those different cultures. And the New Japan fans not being able to sound like New Japan fans and having all of these empty seats on these shows, including for the G1, it's a little disturbing. But like I said, the proof will be in the pudding. Once the COVID restrictions are up, we're gonna have to see how much damage was done by COVID. And not only COVID, it's also the booking decisions in New Japan. Even though the G1 has had some great spots and they're telling a great story with Okada and Jeff Cobb basically running the table over in their block in the G1, and this descent of Hiroshi Tanahashi, the dangerousness of Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi and Yoshihashi putting in tremendous performances, the Guerrillas of Destiny trying to become singles wrestlers, all these really cool stories they're telling during the tournament. The tournament is not only lacking from not having surprise guests as they've had in the past when Kota Ibushi returned and when Jon Moxley was in it and when Marufuji came over and was in the G1 about 5 years ago. But it's also suffering from just not even having their full roster there of guys currently on there. Minoru Suzuki's in the States, so is Jay White. Will Ospreay's over in Europe. He's wrestling over there doing his own thing right now with his own new sub-faction within his faction. Juice Robinson, David Finlay, a lot of these guys are over here in the States. They have some of their wrestlers who aren't even involved anymore with the card. So it's been a very difficult year and a half for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I just hope that when the crowds come back, that things go back to normal and that they stop half-assing their booking, because it's very noticeable that they're not going 100% with the way they're booking their shows. They're just kind of scraping by just to keep the business going. Obviously, they have to do that to make money, but I'm very concerned about the future of NJPW. The perception in the States has already been gobbled up by AEW, and this pandemic thing has not helped them out at all. But hopefully, the Forbidden Door will allow for some more interest in New Japan, because New Japan's setup is very unique. It's not like AEW, it's not like WWE, it's not like anything else we have here in the West, except for maybe Ring of Honor to an extent. But seeing Western wrestlers, guys who are in more of the show business style of pro wrestling, going over to the very more sports oriented style is very cool. It was cool to see the Elite do the stuff that they did over there. It was cool to see Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley and these guys showing up over there. And we want to see FTR go over there. We want to see Bryan Danielson go over there. I'd love to see CM Punk go over there if he wanted to. We're missing out on some of these dream matches, and Okada and Tanahashi and Naito and all those guys over there crossing with the guys over here in the States. We're waiting. We're getting tired of waiting. Let's get there. Hopefully 22 is going to be the year that we get there. But that's the news today here on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Let me know what you guys feel about this story. What do you feel about Roman Reigns setting that record for merchandise sales? What do you feel is going to happen this Friday with the head-to-head collision for the first time ever live on television between AEW's main roster and WWE's main roster? And what do you think the future of New Japan is going to be when the pandemic ends? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. I will see you guys here next time for more news, rumors, and commentary here on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.